Hello everyone, good morning. Today is 21st of November and welcome to the Hindu newspaper analysis discussion. So guys, in the video, we are going to discuss the entire analysis of the Hindu newspaper. We will take the articles, we'll simplify them and we'll understand them with respect to the exam along with the background and the way forward. Now, before starting up, I would like to tell you that if you are new here, you can download the explainer PDF. In the explainer PDF, we have given the notes of all the articles that had come in the today's newspaper. This PDF also includes editorial summaries, and in the last a mains practice question has also been given. Now this PDF can be downloaded from the Telegram channel, and the link for the Telegram channel has been given in the description box in YouTube. Moreover, you can visit Telegram and can search there by typing Thinking Palette by Sahil. Now, before starting, first of all, we'll be taking the newspaper overview so that we can understand that which articles are important in the today's newspaper. So let's take the overview first. So here we have the Delhi edition, and this is the page number 1 of the Delhi edition. The first article talks about the COP27 forms loss and damage fund, new panel to decide its structure. So we'll see this particular article with respect to the key takeaways from COP27. Mangaluru auto rickshaw blast act of terror. Fine. 61% voting in Nepal. Now, not important article with respect to the examination, so no need to go here. Then coming to the city section. So in the city section, regional politics, regional issues, etc. has been given. Fine. And guys, if you are having some different edition of the Hindu newspaper, for example, Chennai edition, Bangalore edition, so in your edition there will be the different regional, political, crime related issues. They are not that much important. However, if sometimes important things are there, we need to see them. Then moving on in this particular direction, much important things have not been given. So directly we'll be coming to the editorial page, and on the editorial page, first article charting the economic journey ahead. We'll see this particular article. The article is talking about that what India needs to focus upon if India wants to become a developed nation. Then a place for the refugees. We'll see this particular article. Incremental win. Now this article is talking about the COP27. We'll see this particular article also, guys. Then coming down on the edge. Now this particular article talks about that Russia needs to create a conducive condition so that the dialogue between the Russia and Ukraine can come. Now no need to go and read the Russia Ukraine development everyday articles, not very much important. Then further, threat to federalism in agricultural education. We'll see briefly what this article is talking about. Then over 73% cryptocurrency users lost money. Now guys, we see this particular thing from last few months. The cryptocurrencies, Ethereum, Bitcoin, they are going down. So in that particular capacity, the article is talking about, but with respect to the exam, much substance is not there. A crisis of civility in the West Bengal, political article, not relevant for the exam. Then coming to the text and the context page, a first look at the new data protection bill. We'll see this particular article as what it is talking about. One more thing I want to tell you, guys, depending on your edition, text and context page sometimes might be at the last also, okay? Or sometimes if you have some different edition, in some of editions, I think text and context is not available, okay? So, but anyhow, I will provide all the notes here. Then moving on, why does the latest FTX fall, what does the FTX fallout mean for the crypto industry? So guys, the FTX was a crypto exchange, fine, which is facing the financial crisis. So this entire, what are the issues that are coming into the FTX? They have recently filed for the bankruptcy protection. All those things are being provided. Now, no need to go too much into the detail. Just one thing, guys, understand this thing, that when we talk about the cryptocurrencies, right now, with respect to the cryptocurrencies in India, they are falling in a kind of a gray area where the trading is going on, but still the comprehensive law on the cryptocurrencies is not there. The finance ministry was expected to bring a law on cryptocurrencies, but we have not come up till now on any law. Then moving on. After that, guys, the political articles, etc., not very much important for the examination. India has given $15 billion loan, soft loan to the neighbors. We'll see this particular article. Fine. Lawyers protest unite CGI Rijeju on saving sanctity of the collegium rulings. So guys, from the past few days, we are seeing this thing that it has been provided that the collegium needs to be replaced by the National Judicial Appointment Commission. Already we have seen that thing. So that was a different issue. So guys, basically in this particular direction, what has happened, lawyers are protesting recently over the transfer of two Gujarat and Telangana High Court judges. So that particular thing is provided. So with respect to the examination, you don't need to go in this particular article, okay? Then further moving on, the political articles, etc., has been given. We must welcome the changing contours of the reservation system. So this is an interview with the Ravi Shankar Prasad. Okay, guys, understand this thing that already I think 8, 9 editorials we have taken on the reservation issue recently when the Supreme Court had upheld the 103rd Constitutional Amendment Act. So I think in last week or 10 days, some 8, 9 articles we have taken. So you don't need to go and follow every article that is coming in that particular line. However, moving on, India Health Compensation Fund, will see this particular article as what it is talking about. States check verify data on PM Kisan, will see this particular article. Fine. Then after that, International Film Festival revives its glory after the COVID-19 pandemic. Not very much important with respect to the exam. Then coming to the world page, so Malaysia rival claims majority support in hung parliament. Turkey launches air raids against Kurdish militants in Syria. Now you see this particular thing, guys, that these are just the evolutionary details that are going on. COVID-19 cases in China. These details are not something that you are needed to too much go in. You need to focus on those dimensions or those issues which have some impact on India, or some where some foreign policy aspect or some bilateral relation between India and some other countries are being discussed. There you need to go in detail. Then today is Monday, so on Monday we don't have business page. On Monday we have money wise page. Okay, how a crypto foil triggered stampede liquidation. So again that issue is being discussed, and then we have the sports page. So that is all, guys, about the overview for the today's newspaper, and now let's discuss all the relevant articles one by one in the detail. Now, in every class we start with the GS quotation. So today we'll be starting with the quotation from the Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa says, Mother Teresa provides that the human rights are not privileges conferred by the government. They are every human being's entitlement by the virtue of his humanity. So see, the rights of the humans, they are not just the legal entitlement which will be coming in existence when the state and citizen relation will be there. These human rights, they encompass a broader category of right. Just because a person has been born as a human, by the virtue of that person's existence, the human rights are to be given. So these rights cannot be negated. These rights cannot be cannot be stripped off from citizens. So this is an idea. We can use this particular idea with respect to the GS paper number 2. GS paper number 2 issues related to the polity. Okay. Now moving to the first article. Now guys, here actually what I have done, I have clubbed the 3 articles. Here I have clubbed the 3 articles because all these 3 articles are on the same topic only. The first article, COP27 sets up loss and damage fund. Now this article is from page number 1. Then after that, the incremental win. This article is also talking about the COP27. It is from the editorial section. And then we have the India Health Compensation Fund approved at the UN Summit. So this article is also onto the COP27. So what we have done, we have clubbed all these 3 articles, and in a comprehensive manner, we have covered this entire issue that has come. Now, let's start with this topic. First of all, guys, from the past 10 days, we are covering this particular issue of the COP27. So, if you might be anyhow be knowing that under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, there are the conference of parties that are held. Now these conference of parties are the grouping where all the member countries who are the part of the United Nations Framework Convention of Climate Change, they come and they discuss the climate change, they discuss that what should be the strategies for the future, etc. Right now the COP27, the 27th edition is going on, and it is being held into the Egypt. Now this COP27 had come to the conclusion. So guys, some of the developments which had happened, fine, they are being discussed. Now, first of all, what has happened, the COP27 was supposed to be the implementation COP. It has to implement many of the things that have been taken earlier. For example, number 1, this COP27 was expected to implement the full-fledged application of the Paris agreements that were taken in 2015. So in the 2015, the countries have taken the targets which are called as INDC, intended nationally determined contributions. As the part of these INDCs, the countries have taken target that they will reduce their carbon emission. India had also taken the 3 INDC targets, but up till now, many of the countries have not fulfilled those INDC targets. So it was expected that here, the countries will adhere to INDC. Moreover, they will revise also the INDC. So the full-fledged application as well as the revision of the INDCs was expected that it will be implemented in the COP27. Second, COP27 also expected that it will implement the climate finance goal of $100 billion. Fine. Now, what is this climate finance goal? Guys, in 2009 in Copenhagen, when the COP was held into the Copenhagen, it was agreed by the developed countries that they will give $100 billion annually to the developing countries so that they can go for mitigation and adaptation for the climate change. This funding has to come till 2020, but up till now this $100 billion funding has not come. So it was expected that the implementation of the climate fund of $100 billion will also happen, but actually these issues have not been resolved. Still there is the deadlock, the things stay wherever they were. Okay, so nothing has come on this particular direction, but one positive development has come, and this positive development is the loss and damage fund. Now, what is this, guys, loss and damage fund? So basically, just I want to tell you a little bit of a background. Actually, since last 3 decades, since last 30 what has happened last 30 years, basically the small island nations, for example, the alliance of small island states. Now the alliance of small island states, it is a group of island nations and one town. So they have said that if the climate change will happen and the sea level rise will happen, they will be the most vulnerable, they will entirely be submerged. So therefore they will face a lot of financial losses, so they need to be compensated, they need to be paid for that. So for paying off these countries who will face the damage, who will face the losses, for them the loss and damage fund has been created. Now guys, understand this particular thing. Climate change fund, okay, climate finance fund that we discussed that it was to be given since 2009, it is being discussed, it is different, and loss and damage fund is different. So that 2009 promise of $100 billion annually, that was to be given to the developing countries so that they can invest into the clean energy, so that they can invest into the renewable energies. That is a different fund. Loss and damage fund will be given as a mechanism because some countries are going to suffer, so to pay back for that loss, this fund has been created. Now understand this particular, guys, this particular fund is being created to compensate the most vulnerable developing countries that are already bearing the brunt of the climate change linked disasters. Fine. Now what is the loss and damage? So basically, guys, this loss and damage, it pertains to the impacts on climate change that cannot be avoided. Okay, there are some impacts that will happen, okay, you cannot avoid them. There cannot be mitigation. What is mitigation? Cutting greenhouse gas emissions, there cannot be any adaptation. Modifying practices against the climate change, neither you can adapt nor you can mitigate. There are some losses that are bound to come, and to make up for that losses, this L&D, fine, loss and damage fund has been created. It will not be compensating only for the economic damage to property, but also will be compensating for the loss of livelihood, loss of biodiversity, loss of the sites that will have the cultural importance. So once the damage has been done, the funding will be given. Now guys, as of now, what will be the exact size of the funding, etc., these things are to be decided, and but it is being expected that this fund will be around $500 billion. But crucial other questions such as who will manage the fund, whether contribution are expected from large developing countries, developed countries, how the share will be collected, and how much amount of total money will be coming. Though $500 billion estimate is being given, but finally all these particular matters will be discussed by the transitional committee, and this transitional committee will work throughout the year, and in the next COP28 that will be held into the UAE in 2023, in the next year it will all be finalized. Is it clear or not? So I hope you are understanding it. Final things will be given by the next year 2023 UAE COP. Now understand this particular thing, guys. As this particular issue was going on, there is a one more confrontation that have emerged between the developed and the developing country. So basically, the European Union, for example, European Union had said that not only the developed countries should contribute into this L&D fund, rather the countries such as the developing countries such as the China, Arab states, even India should contribute because they are the large emitters. Clear? So India happens to be one of the largest carbon emitter. So they said that they should also contribute to this fund. But India will not be agreeing on this particular thing because India itself is asking the money under the climate finance since 2009. Moreover, see, always, I have explained you this particular thing also multiple number of times, that in the climate change or the UNFCCC negotiations, there is one principle, that is the principle of CBDR, that is followed. Now CBDR stands for common but differentiated responsibilities. So as the loss and damage is happening, to make up for that loss, it is a common responsibility, but it has to be differentiated. Means developed countries will do more, developing countries will do less. But now what is happening? The European Union, they are asking that India should also contribute. So this opens up the new or fresh occasion of confrontation which can happen into the next COP, that is the COP in UAE. Moreover, there is one more challenge that has come on this L&D fund. The USA is opposing this particular new fund. According to the USA, the language of the draft of this particular fund is something like this, that it will make USA legally liable, okay, for the damages that have been caused, okay, and that particular things will uphold the USA's accountability directly. So the USA is not comfortable with that. Now, when we guys talk about the COP27, in the COP27, it has been provided that we need to move towards the low carbon economy. Now, see, there are two words. Actually, I want to just tell you, last year, there was the debate on the coal that was going on. So there was a two words that are there: phase out coal and phase down coal. Phase out means completely remove the coal, phase out, and phase down. Phase down means reduce the amount of coal that you are using. India had a problem with that. We said that we cannot go for the phase out because right now more than 50% of electricity anyhow is coming from the coal. So remove the word phase out to and replace it with the phase down. That is something. Now, in the COP27, there was the word that was going on, that is the decarbonization of economy. Decarbonization means that the carbon emissions from the economies are needed to be removed. But now what has happened? The countries have settled from decarbonization to low carbon economies. And it has been provided that for the low carbon economies, $4 to $6 trillion a year will be needed. And for that particular thing, we need to have swift, comprehensive transformation of the financial systems, governments, developed countries. They need to provide the money. Now, this COP27 has also launched a mitigation work program, which will start from 2020, which will start from this year and will continue to 2030. Now, this particular mitigation work program will try to see that how the climate mitigations, etc., can be provided. Moreover, the governments in the COP27 have also been requested that they should revisit and strengthen the 2030 targets. So, I have already given you the Paris. So, in the Paris, there were the Paris pledges that were taken. So the Paris pledges, the goals that they have taken till 2030 to be achieved for climate change, they are not sufficient, because even if they achieve them, still the temperature rise will happen to more than 1.5 degrees Celsius before 2040. Who is saying that? It is said by the IPCC. Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, sixth assessment report. Okay, so IPCC sixth assessment report had concluded that 1.5 degree Celsius temperature rise will happen before 2040, even if we reach the INDC target. So we need to revise them. We need to do more. That is something that has been agreed. So that is all, guys, about all these particular developments that had come. I hope that you have understood it, and now we'll be moving to the next article. A first look at the new data protection bill. Now, first of all, guys, the new data protection bill already we have discussed onto the Saturday's newspaper analysis. So if you have seen it, very good, fine, revise it. If you have not seen it, please pay attention. It is a very important topic for the GS paper number 2 under the topic of right to privacy. Moreover, there are some good dimensions that had come in this particular article. These particular dimensions also we are going to see. So in a way, I am confident that after reading this particular article on the data protection bill, you don't need to go and refer this particular article from any other place. Clear? Even a 10 marker question comes, a 15 marker question comes, you will be able to answer that from the content that has been given in this particular article. Okay, so let's start with that. Now, first of all, guys, is some of the basic information I want to tell you. Okay, and if you are following regularly, I had given you in fact it many number of times. So understand this particular thing, that in 2017 what happened, the Puttaswamy case came. And in the Puttaswamy case, Supreme Court provided that right to privacy is a fundamental right under Article number 21 of the Indian Constitution. And because of that particular thing, government had to create a special law which protects the right to privacy of the individuals. And what government did? Government actually came out came out with the B.N. Shri Krishna Committee. And this B.N. Shri Krishna Committee was asked to suggest the data personal data protection framework, personal data protection bill. B.N. Shri Krishna Committee was asked to suggest that. It suggested one draft bill. Then on that particular draft bill, government came out with the bill. Is it clear or not? Then guys, this bill continued into the house. Fine. From basically 2018 to 2022, this particular matter was going on. But just 2 months back, what had happened? Government bill on the personal data protection bill that the government has introduced, government has withdrawn that particular bill because government said that there are many of the differences that had come in this particular bill. Actually, guys, what happened? First of all, what happened? The B.N. Shri Krishna Committee recommended a bill. Some changes were done and government brought a draft. Okay. Then what happened when this particular bill was in the parliament? There was the standing committee of parliament which has suggested some changes in this particular bill. Then some changes happened. So actually what happened? The personal data protection bill, it became very much different from what was suggested by the B.N. Shri Krishna Committee originally. So therefore government said that there are so many of the differences, so many of the difficulties in this particular bill. Let's remove this bill and bring a new bill. Now the government has introduced this new bill. This bill, I said, is a draft. It has been put into the public comment. People will give their suggestions. You can also give it. Then this particular bill will be presented into the parliament, into the budget session. And then we might expect that it might get passed by the monsoon session, because guys, in the budget session, the most important priority is the grants, the voting onto the grant and all such kind of things. Now, basically, first of all, what is the need of such kind of a bill? So understand guys, a very beautiful paragraph has been given. So right now we see that there are the constant interactions of us with the digital devices. We are on Amazon ordering something, you are on Facebook uploading your picture, writing a post, liking some pages, etc. So what is happening constantly when we are onto the internet? We are leaving a digital trail, and that digital trail, and that digital data, it is a very important one, that data which is being generated. And at the same time, computational power of the computers. Today artificial intelligence has come, strong algorithms had come. So what happens? Basically, the data that we are generating and the data that is being processed, it can have implications over on our autonomy, on our self-determination, on our freedom of choice, on our privacy. Clear? So guys, see this particular thing. Just I want to give you one case study. What happened in 2016? There was the Cambridge Analytica case that happened. What was this Cambridge Analytica case? See, actually, at that point of a time, when the elections were going on in 2016, the people's Facebook profiles, from that the data was harvested and the psychological profiles of the people were created. And on the basis of those psychological profiles, people's likes, dislikes, a curated, a specially designed campaign was shown to everyone. And by that particular thing, a lot of voters, they were swinged. So basically, actually what happened, our choices, they can be impacted by knowing our likes, preferences, dislikes, our self-determination, it might get diluted, and our autonomy at the end of the day might get diluted. So therefore, the data that we are generating, fine, we need to have a right over that. The data that we are generating, we need to have a right that, okay, we don't want to share. What we want to share, we need to determine that. So therefore, the data privacy law is very much important. Now guys, already we are having a law which gives us protection onto the online spaces, that is the IT rules 2011 and IT Act and IT rules of 2011. But they are not sufficient because there are many other developments that had happened. First of all, guys, understand this particular thing, that the IT Act and the IT rules, they are treating the privacy as a statutory right, legal right, and not a fundamental right. Now, fundamental right actually has the highest level of protection after the Puttaswamy case, as the right to privacy has been declared as a fundamental right. So, in that particular recognition, in that higher level of protection, we need a new law. That is one thing. Secondly, when we talk about the IT Act and IT rules, they don't apply to the processing of personal data by the government. Now, government is also collecting a lot of data and it is processing that. So, what about that? How the citizens will have the protection against the government when the government is processing your data? These things are not discussed into the IT Act and IT rules. So, therefore, a new law is again needed. Fine. Then the second reason is that fine, kinds of data to be protected. Now you see there is a distinction between the data also. Personal data is there, non-personal data is there. Personal data is there which has some personal details. For example, my date of birth, my photograph, my blood group. Okay, these are my personal data. Non-personal data is a different category of data. For example, the traffic at the peak hours at a particular road. How many vehicles are crossing a toll tax? Okay, without the number plates, just the number of vehicles that are crossing, that is a non-personal data. The amount of rain that had come at a particular place during a particular month, so that is also data, but that is non-personal data. So the personal data, non-personal data. Within personal data also there is a sensitive data, not non-sensitive data. So basically the type of data and the kind of protections that are to be given to the different type of data, okay, that is not elaborately we discuss. So there are a limited understanding on the kind of data to be protected. Then the third, basically it has very less obligations onto the data fiduciaries. Now what are the data fiduciaries? Basically two words I want to explain. One are the data fiduciaries and one are the data principal. Data principal are the entities to whom the data belongs. For example, I am a data principal and the data, see, my date of birth, my blood group, okay, my address, it is my data. So I am a data principal. Data fiduciary is an organization or an entity who will store that data. Suppose I have put my credit card information at the Amazon. So I own that data. I am a data principal and Amazon is data fiduciary who is storing that data. So the obligations of data fiduciaries, fine, they are not either properly defined or moreover just by an overriding contract, the data fiduciaries can overpower all those particular kind of things. For example, just they will be just there are the terms and conditions. You agree to those terms and conditions, they get the entire autonomy of over your data. So these particular kind of things are needed to be taken care of. So therefore we need to have a separate law. Then there are only minimal consequences of the data fiduciary for the breach of these obligations. So even if the data fiduciaries use your data in some wrong way, there are not very big hefty fines. So therefore we need to have this particular bill. Now guys, understand this particular thing. Actually, bringing this particular bill also had some challenges. What are the challenges in bringing this particular bill? So challenge number one was this, that actually we need to create such a kind of a bill which protects the data, which gives the right to privacy to the people, but at the same time it does not imposes a lot of compliances for the data fiduciaries. Okay, that is something. It doesn't imposes that much compliances that actually the data processing becomes impractical, the data processing becomes impossible. See, today the data is a new oil, data is a new currency, and by processing data, it's not only that the corporates will get the benefit, sometimes by processing the data even the citizens will get the benefit. So don't put so much compliances also. So balance was to be achieved. Then second challenge in this particular bill was that, fine, how to how to find the balance between the right to privacy of the data principles and reasonable exceptions. Now you see this thing, sometimes the exceptions are needed. For example, the government can use your private information for the purpose of national security. So right to privacy, if you give the absolute right to privacy, then the exceptions when the government needs data for processing, they cannot be given. But if we give too much power to the government, then the right to privacy will vanish. So here also the balance was to be made. Then this particular bill needs to be future proof. See, that the technologies, the ways as how the data is being harvested, these things are changing every day. So this bill needs to be future proof. And then finally it has been provided that rights and remedies, fine, to data principals are also to be given. Understand this thing. Data principals, the one who are generating the data, they will have always limited power. Their bargaining power will always be less. See, first of all, my bargaining power is less because I don't have that much legal and technical information that how Amazon is collecting my information, how it can use my information. I don't have that much bargaining power. Now guys, that is a kind of an issue that we need to keep it in mind. So even when the data principals have less bargaining power, they have unequal, how the bill is to be created so that their rights are conserved. Then further moving on. Further, moving on. Now, as these particular issues have come, now government has introduced the bill. So what are the features of this particular bill? We are now going to discuss them one by one. By the way, these features we have discussed on Saturday also, but again, let's revise it because this is important. But up till now, the content that we have discussed, that the issues, the challenges, etc., very important part. Now, the key highlights of the bill. First of all, government has introduced the concept of the consent managers. Consent managers. Now, what are these consent managers? See this particular thing, that many a times you receive certain emails, fine, which are addressed to you. Okay, sometimes you are receiving the SMSs, but you don't know that whether you have given the permission to that company who are sending you the message or who are sending you the email. So sometimes we don't know that to which company, to which corporate, to which organization we have given the consent that they can use our data. So for that thing, a platform will be made. Fine. And that platform will be called as the consent manager platform. You can visit this particular platform and can know that which data fiduciaries are holding your data, to whom you have given the approval that they can use your data. Many number of times we are signing the terms of contract, many a times we are giving the consent and we don't even know that we had given a consent 5 years back. So this consent manager platform will have all that detail, that these are the 10 or 15 or 20 websites on which you have given your consent. You can know that. Secondly, you can also withdraw your consent, that no, I don't want to give you permission, that you still use my data. You can withdraw that particular consent also. Fine. So that has been provided. Then next thing that has been provided is that the consent of an individual is to be the basis for processing of their personal data. Without taking the consent, no personal data can be processed, no personal data can be used, or any patterns cannot be made. It has been provided that the consent has to be taken except in the cases where it is impracticable or due to pressing concerns the data cannot be collected. Only in rarest of the rare conditions you can bypass that. Then after that, it has been provided that every request for consent. Okay, now suppose Facebook wants to collect your data, so Facebook needs to make a request that do you give the consent or not. So all these requests of consent are to be presented to the data principals or to the people or the entities who are owning the data in the plain language. It should not be technical jargon ridden language. In plain language is to be provided. Okay, and any language written into the 8th schedule into the Constitution of India can be used to ask for the consent, not only English. Then next thing that is being provided, that data fiduciaries, while collecting the personal data, they need to provide itemized notice in clear and plain language. Itemized notice, what it means? It means they need to tell that okay, 5 type of information we are going to collect. For example, we'll collect your phone number, we'll collect your date of birth, we'll collect your father's name. So what information? They should not be vague that okay, we'll collect information. Collect information means it can mean many types of information. Even your financial information can come in just the word information. So itemized notice where exactly how many types of information are being collected, it is to be provided. That's something. Then next thing that's provided here, that the data principals, the ones whom data is, the owners of the data, they should be given right to withdraw their consent. Okay. Then next thing that has been provided is that the government is exempt. The government can harvest the data, government can ask the data even without the consent for the sovereignty, integrity, to maintain public order. The next thing that has been provided is that, guys, for making sure that this data protection bill is being followed to the spirit, there will be a body that will be created, that is the Data Protection Board of India. Okay, this will be notified by the central government. Now earlier bill, I told you now that there was earlier bill also that was there. In earlier bill there was the Data Protection Authority. Now in the place of Data Protection Authority, the Data Protection Board of India had come, and there are the hefty charges and the fines also. The bill proposes a penalty of 10,000 rupees on individuals who are providing the unverifiable data, unverifiable information. Okay, if you are providing unverifiable data, wrong information, there will be the charges. Moreover, guys, the penalties can also be imposed onto the data fiduciaries if they don't follow the data compliances. Okay, and the hefty charges are there. Now, one very important part of this particular bill is that it has used the word she, her. Okay, now you see that this is an attempt of government to bring the gender, either gender neutral language or the language where the women's reference are being given. It is the women's empowerment, Nari Shakti, women-led empowerment that government is going on. Now you see the language, particularly into the parliament, the language into the even in the constitution, many times it is genderized into the favor of male. The word he, him, okay, will be are being written. So here the word she, her has been written. So this is also a good case study that you can use in your answers. Fine. So in ethics answers, this is something that can be used. Moreover, it has been provided that by the government that this entire bill, the data privacy, the data protection bill, it has been presented in a very simple language, and government is moving forward with the goal of comprehensibility of law for citizen is a desirable goal. So earlier laws were presented in legal language, but very simple language. Now the government has presented the law. Even earlier draft telecommunication bill that came, that was also in a very plain language that was brought. So this is something that government has come out with this. Now, what are the criticisms of this particular bill? What are the criticisms of this particular bill? So first criticism is that basically guys, in the bill it has been provided that it will be applicable to all the data. Fine. Wherever your data is being processed, so all the processing of data which is carried out digitally, on that particular processing, this draft personal data protection bill 2022 provisions will apply. But what about the manual processing of data? Clear? So it has provided that uh, it has provided that uh, it is inapplicable to data processed manually. Okay, so digital processing of your data is that I have strong algorithms, strong programs, artificial intelligence, and I am processing a tons of data. That is digital processing. But manually also we can process the data. So on that this bill will not be applicable. Now earlier bill that came, it was better in comparison to this. Why? Because earlier bill provided that in manual processing it will not applicable, but only if the manual processing is being done by the small entities. Okay, but now it has made a kind of a general exception. Okay, so here there might be some misuse that can happen. Fine. Okay, one more thing I want to tell you. See, data collected digitally, fine, digital processing, the bill will apply. Data collected manually, but the processing is digitally, the bill will apply. But third, when the processing is manually, then the bill will not apply. Then the next thing that is providing about that, guys, see, in this particular bill, there are some very good things that had happened. First of all, there is the data minimalization, which means collect only such personal data as is required. जितना data चाहिए उतना ही data लेना है, not unnecessary data. So data minimalization is followed. Then the uh, limitation is there. Collection limitation is there. Fine. Then it has been provided that it is the data is to be stored only for the purpose that has been stated. Purpose limitation is there. Fine, you collected the data for X thing, you cannot use it for Y thing. So purpose limitation is there, collection limitation is there. Okay, data minimization is there. Then it has been provided that the data is to be stored into the servers as for the time only when it is needed. It cannot be the case that you have stored the data for perpetuity. Fine, you need to store the data, just store for the time for which it was asked. So storage limitation is there. All these things were there, but guys, at the same time there are some limitations that had come in this particular bill. See, when we talk about the data, it has been made solely contingent onto the consent. You just ask the consent and you can collect the data, but many number of times people might not know, fine, that what actually people don't read the consent forms. Fine, they are just giving the consent, but they don't know. Fine, for example guys, there is a photo filter app, there is a photography act, okay, which puts some filter on your photographs. It makes you look more beautiful. Fine. Now when we give this particular app the permission that yes, you can collect the photos from our photo album, guys, in our photos there are much other informations that are also there. There is a metadata along with the photographs. For example, Today, cameras, they capture the time when the photo was collected, the place where the photo was collected, the longitude, latitude of that particular place, and many other informations also. So basically, the application actually needs the image. But what about the data associated with the image? That particular data can also be given just when you have given the consent. So point is that just onto the basis of consent, the data can be collected. So point is that now the data principals don't have requisite know-how of what kind of data is relevant for a particular purpose. So what about awareness about the citizens, about the people? So in this particular process, there will be an application that will be coming. The next thing that is coming is that, fine. The bill also reduces the information that a data fiduciary is required to provide to the data principal. Now, earlier bill, it has a lot of obligations imposed onto the data fiduciary. For example, they need to tell the data principal, the person whose data is, they need to tell them that, first of all, they need to tell them that there is the grievance redressal mechanism, the retention period of the information, how much time they will be storing that information, the source of information collected, all these particular things are to be told to the data principal. But now that particular data, that detailed information is not to be told, only the type of data that they are asking, fine, the purpose, all only these things are being are to be told. Grievance redressal mechanism, the rights that they have, they also have the right to withdraw that consent. All these informations are not being given to the data principal by the data fiduciary. Now you see this thing, everybody is not a UPSC aspirant, okay? Everybody doesn't read the newspaper every day, fine. So you are reading the newspaper, and as we are doing the analysis, you might know, but other people don't know. So telling them is not an obligation of fiduciary. So these are, guys, all the issues that had come. And as I told you before I started this discussion, this, that beyond this you don't need to go and see any article. So that stays true. After we have discussed so exhaustive coverage of this particular article, no need to go and read it anywhere else. So that is all, guys, about it. And now we'll move to the next article. Appraise for refugees for India's welfare umbrella. Okay, now guys, this particular article, it is talking about an important issue. Just a minute. Okay, this particular article, guys, is an important article, and it is talking about the 16 days of activism that is being observed. Okay, now this particular article will see with respect to the GS paper number 2, GS paper number 2, welfare and social justice, GS paper number 2, welfare and social justice. Now let's start with this particular article. So basically, guys, when we talk about the month of November and December, during this particular month, 16 days of activism is observed. Now what is the 16 days of activism? Little bit information. So basically the 25 November, fine, 25 November to the 10th December, fine, on to the 10th December, there is the World Human Rights Day. So these 16 days are observed as the 16 days of activism, and it calls for the cooperation by the people, by the government, that they need to reduce the gender violence, they need to reduce other types of violence, human rights are to be preserved. So now this year also we are observing this 16 day of activism, and this 16 day of activism is focused against the gender based violence that is happening, because right now we see this particular thing, that there is a global increase of the gender based violence, particularly because of the pandemic of COVID-19 that is going on. This COVID-19 pandemic has been called as the shadow pandemic, because we see that the women have become more vulnerable, and during this COVID-19 pandemic, the domestic violence, particularly against the women, has increased. Child marriages have increased. Trafficking of girls has increased. Sexual exploitation and abuse has increased. So therefore, the 16 day of activism, fine, is specifically oriented towards the gender-based violence that is coming. Then after that, moving on. So basically, this year's 16 day of activism, its motto, its tagline is unite, activism to end violence against women and girls. So special theme is towards the women and the girls. Now we need to unite, find to end the violence against women and girls, and we need to empower them so that they can stand for themselves, so that they can stand for themselves, they can preach their own rights. At the same time, we also need to support the men so that the men becomes the agents of change. Okay, so the men becomes the agents of change. Okay, you understand this particular thing, that the patriarchy, the women's exploitation will never be addressed if the men are not empowered, if the men are not educated. So you need to empower men, but at the same time you need to empower women, but at the same time men also. Now when we talk about, guys, India has a very good track record in preserving the women's rights, women dignities, and from the freedom struggle we can see this particular thing. When the freedom struggle was being fought, the women were at the forefront. 75 years had happened. We have given the universal adult suffrage, article 325. Article 325 and Article 326 provides the constitutional right to vote, where the women have been given equal right. Then we drafted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948, and this Universal Declaration of Human Rights have specially recognized the women's equality, women's right. Moreover, we have also signed the CEDA, that is the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. And in the CEDAW, the women's insubordination for men, women's domestic violence, all these kind of things are being addressed. So these are some very good initiatives that have been taken by India since 1947. Moreover, at the same time, India is empowering the women in political life, economic life, social life. For example, today when we talk about the women, women in India had made progress in all the lives, politics. I just want to give you some data which is little bit beyond the scope of this particular article. Guys, as of now, in the parliament, 14% MPs are women. In 2019 Lok Sabha that got constituted, 78 MPs were the women. Now, though if we see, the number is not that good, because ideally if 50% population is constituted by the women, around that proportion is should be of there. But this is best since the independence. So the women's empowerment into the politics is increasing, actually, one thing. Secondly, guys, just I want to give you a case study. You can please note it down in your notebook separately. When we talk about the Panchayati Raj institutions, there 44% of the Panchayat members are the women. So that is an area which can be put as a case study. So women's empowerment in politics is coming. Women are now leading in the science, business, medicine, sports, agriculture. Find all the places women are leading. Women has also overcome the glass ceiling, and after the Supreme Court judgments, if even the women have been allowed to be the commanders in the armed forces, in the in fine that is fine that after permanent commission is also being given to the women. So we find this particular thing that the women are actually empowered. And when we talk about the UN peacekeeping forces, where India contributes large number of troops in the US peacekeeping forces, there are the equal role that the women have been given. Okay, so that is something that has come. After that, government has come out with a multiple number of new schemes, bills, laws, institutions. The government is running the campaign of Nari Shakti for New India. Government is moving from women-centric development to the women-led development. That is something that we can see. But now, let's talk a little bit about the refugees. Okay, now when we talk about the, guys, the case of the refugees, see this particular thing, that today in India there are more than 2 lakh, actually 2,12,000 refugees that are there. And out of these refugees, are half of them are the women, they are the girl childs. So basically, to protect the women, we also need to protect the refugees, or we need to look about the refugees who are women. Now you see this particular thing. India got refugees from many countries. We have Afghan refugees, we have Sri Lankan refugees, we have Bangladeshi refugees. Okay, by many countries refugees had come. Now, first of all, when the refugees had come from the Sri Lanka, fine, they are registered directly with the government of India, and in a limited capacity they have been given the rights also, including they are entitled to have their Aadhaar cards, they can make their PAN cards, fine. And by the Aadhaar card and PAN cards, their economic financial inclusion can happen, they can get the bank account, they can enjoy many other kind of entitlements also. So this is something that we have done. Then, guys, there are other refugees who are directly registered with the UNHCR. The UNHCR stands for United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Fine, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Fine. Now the refugees who have come from Afghanistan, Myanmar, and other countries, okay, they are have been registered with the UNHCR, and they have access to protection of limited assistance. Fine, though they do not possess the government document, okay, but still they have been given the large protections. So that is something that are the cases. There is a one set of refugees who are registered with government, other set of refugees registered by the United Nation Convention for the United Nations High Commissioner for the Refugees. One thing I want to tell you guys, that there is also the United Nations Refugee Convention. India has not signed that United Nations Refugee Convention. Okay. So this is something that we are doing, but guys, still we need to do more. Regardless of their legal status, we need to understand that their vulnerabilities are there, which are to be addressed, and for that particular thing special safeguards are to be given. So this is guys all about this particular editorial. Fine, now moving to the next article. Charting the economic journey ahead. Now this particular editorial will see with respect to the GS paper number 3, issues related to Indian economy, the state of Indian economy. Okay. Now this particular article is talking about some very good and very practical recommendations. Let's discuss them one by one. Now, recently we have celebrated the 75 years of Indian independence, and the next 25 years, that is by 2047, when India will become 100-year-old republic. By that particular time, this 25 years we are celebrating is Amrit Kal. Now this Amrit Kal window is very much important because we want to become a developed nation before the 2047 strives, and in that particular capacity much more things are to be done. Now guys, understand this particular thing, that basically there is a low income group countries, there are the high income group, just a minute, so there are the low income group countries, there are the medium income group countries, and then there are the high income group countries. Is it clear or not? Now guys, when we talk about many of the countries in the world, fine, when they become developing countries, when they become emerging countries, they are able to break this low income group trap and they become a middle income group country. But many of them are not able to break this middle income group trap, and they are not able to become the high income group. Now when we become the high income group country, it can be said that the country has become a developed one. Now if a country's per capita income increases to more than $12,000, okay, or some estimates say at $13,000 per capita income, then a country is called as the high income group countries, and then a country can be called as the developed country. Now when we talk about India, India needs to achieve the minimum per capita income of $13,000. What is per capita income? It is a total incomes of, it is the average income that is earned per person in a given area in a given year. So we want to make sure that our per capita income is minimum $13,000 before 2047. So for that particular thing, economic reforms are needed. Now what economic reforms are to be taken up? First of all, the article is talking about the strategy that government has taken up till now. Now first of all, in the early years, what strategy government has taken? First of all, government focused on raising the saving and the investment rate. Okay, you see this thing that if we save more, okay, we put that money in the bank, we put that money into the FD. By that particular money, the banks can give the loan to the entrepreneurs, to the industrialists, and that will bring the economic growth. So saving rate, investment rate are to be increased. Dominance of the state intervention. Now just after the independence, the state was dominant in manufacturing, in service, everywhere, because at that point of a time private capital was not there. Moreover, government need to actively present in the systems. Fine. Then import substitution, we reduce the imports, only import for the urgent things was allowed. Fine, we are talking about before LPG. Then domestic manufacture of the capital goods. Okay, we tried that machinery, capital goods, fine, heavy goods can be manufactured within the nation. These are the four focus areas on which we tried to focus after the 1950 till 1991. But actually, this particular policy was not very much successful. And actually, during this particular time, 1950s and 1960s, policy makers did not had much of the idea that what going to be the best economic policy for India. And we see that since 1950s to 1990s, the growth rate was not very much good. Fine, even there are the terms that have been used, that is the Hindu growth rate, fine, which was very, very, very marginal, very, very less that happened. Actually, what happened? our economic growth started to accelerate after 1991 LPG reform that came. But why LPG reform came? LPG reform came because of the crisis of 1990-1991. So you know already, if you have read the basic economy, that 1991 was the year when India was facing the balance of payment crisis. We did not had money to pay for the imports that we had made. And at that point of a time, under the compulsion of IMF, we opened up our economy. We came with the LPG reforms. Okay. And after that particular thing, what happened? There are the three important things that were taken up. Number one, we dismantled the complex regime of license and permits. Earlier, for everything, there was a license and permit that was needed. We removed that. We redefined the role of a state. So the state will not be the rower. State will be just the steerer. Steerer means state will give the direction and will not drive the economy. So the role of the state was redefined. Thirdly, we gave up the inward looking trade policy. Rather, we adopted the outward looking trade policy. Inward looking means that we will not interact with the outer world, will not import. We gave up that and we came out with the open economic policy. Then, guys, it has been provided that when we talk about earlier, before the 1991, by the end of 1970s, population growth was at 2.2%, but the per capita income growth was at 1.4%. So, population is increasing at a higher speed, income is increasing at a lower speed. It means that the people are going to poor. People are going to be, there will be the impacts onto the economic well-being of the people. But at the same time, we tried to focus on other areas, for example, health, social parameters, literacy rate, life expectancy. They were something on which we tried to focus upon. Green revolution also came. Now, green revolution of 1960s brought some kind of a respite, brought some kind of a comfort, because at least the food find on which for which also we are dependent on to the countries such as the USA, that dependency was reduced. That is something that happened. Meanwhile, industrial base also widened up. And guys, 2005-6 to 2010-11, these were the golden years of Indian economy, because this was the time where for 5 to 6 years Indian economy was growing at 8.8%. And why this is important? Because it has shown that what India is capable of, what India can achieve if India suitably amends the economic policy. So this is something that was proved by the by this period of 2005-6 to 2010-11. But this success was short lived. Now, guys, it has been provided that right now, with the coming of COVID-19 pandemic, Russia-Ukraine war, before that demonetization of 2016, our economic growth has slowed down. Now, India again need to achieve the economic growth of 7%, and that too for 20 years consecutively. So, for next more than 2 decades exactly, we need the 7% of growth. Then only India can become the developed economy. Okay, so this is something. What we need to do? First of all, we need to focus on absorbing the new technologies that have emerged. Now you see this thing: renewable energies, self-driven cars, artificial intelligence, machine to machine communication. These are the new technologies that are emerging. So India needs to absorb them and needs to become a niche market of these particular emerging technologies. Then we need to focus on the strong export sector. And for that particular thing, just add one particular point, that we need to specifically leverage the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan of India. Then India also needs a strong manufacturing sector. Guys, manufacturing sector is very important, because you see that today 58% of the people are employed in agriculture, and agriculture is facing the problem of the disguised employment. Agriculture today contributes around 15 to 16% of GDP, but 58% people involved there. It means that a lot of people are there in agriculture. We need to remove them, and where they'll go to the manufacturing sector. So India needs a strong manufacturing sector. We need the organized segment also increased. The organized segment, formal sector, should also increase. Then when we talk about today India is the fifth largest economy, which is an impressive achievement. But at the same time, our per capita income is very much low, and India ranks at 142 out of 197 countries in terms of the per capita income. So we have the fifth largest economy, but at the same time, population is also so big that the per capita income becomes very much less. So therefore, we need to focus. Is it clear or not? We need to bring growth. We need to focus on environmental consideration. All these particular kind of things are to be taken up. So this is, guys, all about this particular article. I hope that you have understood this entire issue in much more comprehensive manner. Fine. So guys, I try to give you certain inputs from the other sources as well as from the editorial so that we can make a comprehensive view. Sometimes the articles are a little bit abstract. Sometimes the articles are just written from a point of view that you know everything from the start. Okay. Then threat to federalism in agricultural education. Now guys, this particular article, it is talking about that how the federalism is under siege, it is under confrontation, it is under a lot of frictions that had come. Now, this particular article will see with respect to the GS paper number 2 federal issues. GS paper number 2 federal issues. Now, before going in this particular article guys, in the past week or around 10 days, we have taken multiple articles on the federalism because of the Kerala controversy that is going on. I have explained you earlier also, and I'll repeat that earlier we used to use the words cooperative federalism, bargaining federalism, but now what has come? Because of the frictions that are increasing between the state and the center, the words such as the frictional federalism, confrontational federalism, combative federalism, becoming they are coming into the limelight. Now, there is the controversy going on between the Kerala, and we have discussed multiple controversies in this particular direction. We have discussed already the controversy where the government and the governor are in tussle. Now, what this present issue is talking about? So basically, guys, recently the Kerala High Court, it has annulled the appointment of the vice chancellors. So there was one more controversy of the vice chancellor also, where the governor has asked the vice chancellor of 11 universities in Kerala to resign. Okay, now there is one more controversy where the Kerala High Court has annulled the VC of the Kerala University of Fisheries and Ocean Studies. Now, you don't need to remember the name, but what's the issue? Issue is this, that it has been said that there are the violation because the VC was appointed onto the basis of the search committee. Now, this search committee recommended a single name and not a panel. So, search committee who recommends the name of the VC, they need to give a list of, and they need to give the panel out of 5-6 people, out of which one person will be appointed as VC. But they did give only one option, and that person was appointed. Secondly, they said that in the search committee that was there, fine, there was the Director General of the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, ICAR, and not a UGC nominee. UGC nominee was not there. ICAR's Director General was there. Now, this particular thing has been criticized. It has been criticized because it has been said that it is impacting the federalism in India. Now, understand this particular thing. That guys, when we talk about the seventh schedule, in the seventh schedule we have state list, union list, and concurrent list. Now, the state list has those subjects on which the state will be making the law. And in the state list of the seventh schedule, agriculture has been mentioned as a state subject. Agriculture has been mentioned as a state subject. Moreover, when we talk about the agricultural education is detached from the higher education, and it is also the part of the state list. Fine. Now, when we talk about the education as a whole, by the way, education is in concurrent list. Means on education, both the center and the state can make the law. But within the concurrent list, education includes the technical education, medical education, universities, but there is no mention of the agricultural education. So as agriculture is a state subject, and as agricultural education is detached from the concurrent list and added into the state list, so agricultural universities, they are also, who will have the power? The state government will have the power. Now you see which university it was. It was the Kerala University of Fisheries and Ocean Studies. Now, basically, it has been provided that when we talk about the animal husbandry, fisheries, fine, all they are allied with the agriculture. So, therefore, state government has to be supreme in this particular direction. Moreover, when we talk about this particular issue, the KUFO's judgment, the judgment of recent Kerala High Court, it is violating the spirit of the Constitution. Moreover, the ICAR, it has a unique legal status. It was earlier the government department which was established in 1929. Then it became a society. And today the ICAR, it is a premier institution in agricultural research. So therefore, if Director General of ICAR was there into the search committee, that particular thing should not be, has been made as an exception, and on that particular basis, the VC's nomination should not have been annulled. This is something that has been provided. Now, basically guys, in the article, it has been provided that in 1983, the Supreme Court also ruled that the ICR is the most, and it is an inseparable adjunct of the government of India. So it has been given such an high status. Okay. Now, after that, the article is talking about much of the nitty-gritties and the hairline details, though I had given you the summary of all these particular kind of things, that this many percentage of agricultural veterinary universities had adopted the ICR's Model Act and all such kind of things. I don't say that actually they are very much important, though I had given you a summary. If you want to read, you can read it. But too much hairline detail, too much nitty-gritties are not very much important for the exam. So just these, now guys, see this thing. There will not be a question which will ask that, okay, just write a note on to the issue of the KUFO's university, fine, where the VC was removed. No, these kind of questions will not be coming. In the general questions, you need to give these particular kind of references. Okay, so that is all about this. And in the last, these minor details, not very much needed, though I had given you as a summary. If you want, you can read it. Now moving to the next article. India has given $15 billion as a soft loan to neighbors. Now guys, basically this particular article will see with respect to the GS paper number 2, India's neighborhood relations. Now you see, when we talk about India, India follows the neighborhood first policy, and basically India has given always the importance. In the Gujarat doctrine, the neighbor was called as the first wall of defense. In the Panchsheel, we have said that India should have a bigger hurt. Okay, so the Panchsheel, the Gujarat doctrine, okay, we have always given the importance to our neighbors, and when we talk about helping them, the economic cooperation becomes an important element. So therefore, what has happened, India has provided that over the last few years, fine, the loans, the soft loans, the credit lines that have been given to our neighbors, it have increased from 3 billion to 15 billion dollar in the last 8 years, and we are providing them the credit lines. Soft loans means the loans which are made at very less interest rates. Now this thing has been provided by the G20 chief coordinator Harshvardhan Shringla. Okay, so this is something that has been provided, and these particular money is helping these countries to give better connectivity, to build infrastructure. See guys, just this particular example can also be used, that India always focuses on capacity building. China focuses on building the dependency of China on the other countries, but India focuses on capacity building, and in that particular line, this is something very good that India has done. Okay, so just as a reference, we can use it. Now moving to the next article. States check verify data of the PM Kisan beneficiaries. Now guys, what is this particular issue all about? Fine. First of all, understand this particular thing. Little bit we need to talk about the PM Kisan. Now guys, when we talk about the PM Kisan, so PM Kisan, it is a central sector scheme. It is a central sector scheme. Central sector scheme means that the 100% money of this particular scheme will be paid by the central government. There are the central sector scheme, and then there are the central sponsored scheme. Sponsored schemes are those where both the center as well as the state will bring a particular share of money, but the central sector 100% money will be given by the center. Now the goal of the PM Kisan Yojana is to provide 6,000 rupees of financial assistance in three installments to all the farmers, irrespective of the land holdings and irrespective of the land size. So 6,000 rupees to every farmer will be given, irrespective of your size, irrespective of your land holding. That is something clear. This particular scheme is implemented by the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. Fine. Now this particular scheme is launched in 2019, and since then the scheme is going on. Now what happened? Recently the Hindu newspaper has published that the disbursements given under the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi, that is the PM Kisan. So the disbursements given under the PM Kisan has fallen by 67%. Okay, it means that now the less and the less farmers are receiving the money under the PM Kisan. The goal was to provide 6,000 rupees to every farmer. So here some data has been given that first of all there were 3.87 crore farmer, it increased to 6 crore, then 7.65 crore, 8.20 crore. So these numbers have been given by 9.26, 9.71, 9.84. Fine, you don't need to remember this particular number. The point is that Actually, in the last 2 years, the more farmers were getting the money, but now this disbursements have reduced by 67%. This was a report that was brought into the newspaper. Now, guys, what has happened? The government has clarified that we have not reduced the disbursements. Government had said this particular thing, that the government has provided this particular thing, that the data of farmers are uploaded by the states, okay, and then they validate it. Actually, it are the state government who are giving the data, and on the data given by the state government, the center is giving the money. So center has not reduced any disbursement. This is the justification that has been given by the center. So you don't need to go and follow too much of this particular article, just you need to be knowing about the broad issue that is going on. That is about it. And now let's take the mains practice question for today. So today's question, it says that the violence against women and girls remain the most pervasive human right violation around the world. In this context, highlight the steps taken by Government of India to end the atrocities against the women. Now, this particular on this particular question, you try to write a 10 marker question, and this question will be important for the GS paper number 2. That is all, guys, about this analysis today. Guys, today I am trying to take one goal, okay, I am trying to take one target. Fine, I want to see that whether you will fulfill or not. So today I am taking a target of 1000 likes. This is the first time that we are keeping such a kind of an ambitious target. Okay, so please like the video. So I am expecting 1000 likes, and I am confident that you will achieve that particular target. So if you have liked the video, please do hit the like button. Now we'll meet